a whole week. I am so excited to be back here with all of you. Welcome to Mornings with Marvel, where authenticity lives and thrives to create a space of growth, healing, and joy. I am your host, Andrea Lawful Sanders, and each day we will cover the topics that are informative and engaging while learning from each other. Good morning. Good morning. How are you? Hi, Chloe Isabel Francis. Are you ready to join me this morning? Good morning, each and every one of you. It is Monday, August 25th, 2025, and we are back for the fall season of Mornings with Mother. I am so excited. Thank you all for allowing me the space and the grace to take a week off so that I could, and listen, Dennis, my eyes are still red. I should have put some eye drops in. I did the Lady B basement party last night. I did not get home until almost 11 p.m. I'm telling you, I prayed that I'd be able to wake up this morning. It is something I do every year with Connie Greer. She's a principal of the school, so she's already on her way to school, and we're both going, but it was worth it. It was absolutely worth it. So I'm back. We are absolutely back for a brand new season. What I have decided for this morning show, 6 to whenever I feel like it, 6:30 to sometimes 8 o'clock, Monday through Friday, is that there will be times when I have to take a much needed break. Why is that? The amount of news, the amount of stuff that is pushed towards me every single day leaves me sometimes feeling completely overwhelmed. And as someone who delivers the news and covers the stories, I need to also take a break. You are not going to wake up one morning and go, "Oh my God, mother killed over." Not this one. Right. And so I am taking the time. And I remember when I was working for the radio station and feeling absolutely exhausted and saying to myself, I need a break. I need a break. So I'm giving myself that grace. I own this platform. And so when I feel like taking a break, of course, within reason, I'm not going to take a break every week, but I need some time off every once in a while to do what needs to be done. So let me go over here and say good morning to all of you. It's been a beautiful time. As many of you are now aware, I spent, good morning, Monica. Oh, she says, hey, Sister Andrea, missed you so. Welcome back. Thank you for giving me the space to do it, though. Good morning, Marguerite. Good morning, honey. Oh, Laura says Connie loves her hip hop. Thank you, my darlings. Thank you so much. Good morning, Jazenia. I'm going to still always call you Jazenia. I just love calling you like that. Hi, Bobby. So the phone lines are going to be open this morning, 215-400-0146. Just trying to navigate. So there was a something that I posted on my social media pages, particularly Facebook, maybe about 2 weeks ago, about black men disappearing. A black man had come on to say that black men were disappearing in North Carolina, truckers. And so it kind of undid me. And so I said, I wasn't sure. Thank you guys. I wasn't sure if it was true. Well, some woman who saw the my post, who's not a friend of mine, inboxed me on Messenger and started sending me the links. Yo, this is absolutely true. And they're saying these men committed suicide. They completed the act of suicide. Their trucks were turned over and destroyed, on the side of the road. They're saying that there's a mob that is doing it, and then the men disappear, and then they're found dead. And so this woman continues to send me the link. So I'm investigating now. Why am I going to the left here? I'm investigating now fully to see what I can find. As a direct result, y'all, those of us, I have been saying, oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, I missed you guys too. But guess what? I saw copy, paste, and repeat for 5 days. I went and stayed in a home and had them come and see me there. And well, I rented a house, and they came and saw me there, and we spent 5 glorious days of just grandma. It was so. I had such a good time, and then I invited son number two to come. My daughter-in-law, we were all there. And we did the zoo, the aquarium, and you saw some of the pictures. I'm very intentional about not putting my grandchildren's faces, full frontal faces, pictures of them. They're adorable children, and people are taking these pictures and these doing all sorts of things with them. Thank you. The Jamaicans gave it to me. It was good. No, no, I bought this one. I bought this one, but there's another one that the Jamaicans gave me. Anyway, so I spent some time with them, and it really helped my soul. Every time I gave them a hug, I felt so much better, so much better. So going back to what's going on in North Carolina, as a direct result, I want to take you all to this mineral springs, right? You all are going to drive your own cars, the whole 9 yards. Going to find your, what is going on with me? I think I have lipstick. You're going to find your own hotel, etc. But be ready when I say this is the weekend that we're going. We're going. I need us to all go in one pack. I feel like there's something red on my forehead. I'm crazy. All to go in one pack, but I'm very concerned about whether we will be safe. Good morning, Shamika. Good morning. I'm concerned about our safety, so that's been my issue. All right. Let me let David Alexander Jenkins in because you know. Well, you know what? I'm so sick of you.
Good morning.
I am so sick of you. Well, good morning, my darling. Where
Good
are you calling?
morning.
Where are you with your seersucker suit on? What's going
Listen,
on?
well, I have escaped to the Hamptons for Hamptons Classic Week, and this is the time of year when we have our horse trials in the Hamptons, and so I was in Manhattan, and I'm up here now, sitting in the promised land, if you will.
Are you sure? You know
Just
what's so
go
funny? I
get
was with
that
a
view.
listen. I
Uh,
was with a friend of mine yesterday, and she said to me, "All those people acting like they're wealthy and the boule, blah blah blah." She said, "David is true wealth. Like your family comes from true wealth, and black folks would do well to pay attention to what real wealth looks like." You know.
It's funny because I was having a conversation with a YT person about wealth, and there is this common understanding in Caucasian America and Caucasian world about wealth whispers, money talks,
Money screens.
and yes, and because what I want to add to that is that there is a color that the African American diaspora um, of wealth still exercises in the way that it speaks.
Hmm.
So we can be a little grand in the way that we show up, but we
Hmm.
show up in an old grand kind of way. And I think a lot of that is because as Black people, which now thankfully shows like the Gilded Age are depicting, um, you weren't allowed necessarily to show up in the way that you would like to show up. And so instead of not showing up at all, you showed up as more than. The response
Mm.
was not to shrink, but to shine.
Hmm.
So we're aware in U.S. law that there was a time where women were forced to wrap their heads so that their hair did not show if they were Black in Louisiana and other places in the South. And it became such a fashion statement that white women began to wrap their heads. And so then slave masters said, "Oh, Black people have to stop wrapping their heads because they're so showy in the way in which they wrap their heads." So we do, as a people, come with a little bit of in our in our step and a je ne sais quoi. So um, I don't know that we always whisper in the ways that our counterparts whisper, but we certainly do adhere to an older way of life and to a season in a circle. So one of the things in that season is this understanding of Martha's Vineyard for a time, of Lake Tirati for a time, of the Bear Mountains, and certainly of being in the Hamptons this week for Hamptons Classics.
Hmm.
Um, on that theme, since we're there, I would like to invite all of your listeners and viewers to a ball that I throw in Tuxedo Park in New York, in the Greenwood Lake section of that area. And it is called the Carpathia West Ball.
Hmm.
And the Carpathia West Estate, we host the ball, the princely ball, every year. Last year, we hosted His Royal Highness the Crown Prince Leka of Albania and his new partner Bleta.
Where are you
While
hosting this year?
we're doing it again at Carpathia West on the
No, no,
20th of
no. Who are
September.
you hosting this year?
This year, we're hosting King Osiah III of Ghana
That's who I thought
and
you were hosting.
and the Royal House of God New.
Okay.
Um, and we're working on visas. But but I want to let you all know that if you go to www.carpathiawestball.com,
HIA.
www.carpathia
Mm-hmm.
westball.com, that you can come to a white tie royal ball out here at Carpathia West Estate. We would love to have you join us
Well,
for this
Keisha,
event.
but I have to ask this question: are we worthy? Do we have things in our closet? I know I
Let
don't.
me tell you something. Let me
that
tell you
can
something
that
about
can
Black
fit.
people.
Okay.
Let me tell you about Black people.
Mm-hmm.
Black people are the most overdressed people in the world. If you go to a Sunday service at
Mm-hmm.
Enon Tabernacle, you're going to find mother in a beaded gown at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If you go to Tindley Temple, you're going to find grandmama has got on something with the train and a bow and a thing that goes to the side and a hat that goes like this and all that kind. So we have clothing. If we have nothing else in the world as a people, we have clothing.
But
It is a
we've
white tie
gotten
ball.
we've gotten a little lackadaisical with our clothing though.
This
You
is
know.
this is your Cinderella moment. Also, it's national dress, so you have the choice to show up either in white tie or in African garb, or whatever your nation's dress is where you come from. And I'm also, and this is just for you, so don't share this. Promo code capital DAVID
Mhm.
2025. So all caps, David 2025. That'll take $100 off whatever ticket level you purchase. If you tell anybody else, I will murder you. Just shut. So this is your code. This is for you viewers who come on and support us all the time. This ball this year is in honor of Protimos organization.
Mhm.
Protimos is a legal aid organization that works all throughout Africa and through other marginalized communities, making sure that they have access to law. So when you talk about wanting fair trade prices for coffee, or wanting the land to actually be paid for in Africa, or wanting gold deals to go well, or not having Europe just come in and wipe away people's rights and privileges. Protimos, Fiona Derrick, who is the barrister, the top barrister in London, formed an organization about legal aid to make sure that people could not be pillaged or stolen from, where they did not have a voice, that they had a voice. And so it is UN Week at the very beginning of that. And so we're hosting this ball just at the start of that. And I would love to see you all there. We always talk about, how do I get to a white tie ball? Come on over to Carpathia West.
So the question is,
Yeah.
do we stay overnight? I would love to do this actually.
Come on. Come on now. Listen, and if you do a party like we never had in like 1995, right? There, if you want, so we're also doing this.
Hmm.
Uh, this is why my mother gets upset with me with money. So if you're coming from Philadelphia and you have a ticket, we will transport you from the Ritz Carlton to the estate and back. If you're coming from New York, we will transport you from the Plaza Hotel and back. And we will provide the coach for that. If you would like to fly, we have two heliports, so you are welcome to fly. We're using Blade as an official sponsor for helicopters, and so if you happen to be somewhere else and need to fly in, we can do that. There's also the Greenwood Lake Airport in the Greenwood Lake Tuxedo Park area. Um, Tuxedo Park is an area that often we are not in,
Yeah.
and it's not because we can't be here, it's just because we don't know about it.
Yeah.
And the word tuxedo comes from Tuxedo Park, New York, right? It's originally a almost midnight black suit for dinner called tuxedo because it was worn in Tuxedo Park as a response to white tie. So I am responding to the tuxedo by saying white tie.
This is
In
so
honor of
awesome.
our royal guests.
Okay,
Um,
so I'll deal with that when
yeah.
I get off the air. CarpathiaWestball.com.
Yes.
Put
Yes.
all in caps David 2025 to get $100
Yeah.
off. If you're coming from Philadelphia, they will transport you from the Ritz Carlton to the event and back. I
Hmm.
want y'all to see what true wealth is. True wealth isn't vulgar.
No, that's it. It's not vulgar.
It's not vulgar.
It's not vulgar. We don't like vulgarity.
And so I just put it in. I just put David. I just put it there.
Yes.
CarpathiaWestball.com.
Yes, yes, and
Um.
our honorary committee this year is really important because I wanted to look at what the world was saying today.
Mhm.
How do we say something? We always talk about what do we do about now? Well, we gather the Crown Prince of Albania and his partner. We gather Queen Dambi of the Congo, who goes around doing this work throughout the entire world. We gather Susan Yablokov of the International Debutante Ball Committee, the person in charge of making sure that whatever young girl gets where she needs to go in that particular cycle. We gather Tiffany Frazier, who is a beautiful and vibrant African American woman living in New York City, who is just a rock star. We gather people like Landsgraven Daniel Frederick Ludwig Hex von Salden, who is the equivalent of a duke in Sweden, who's also doing this work for equality. And we put them all on the ball committee to make this event happen. So I want you guys to have access to this marvelous group of people and to this world that you belong in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know what's so funny? I get these grandiose thoughts about things that I want to wear, and I've given away so many pieces of my clothes. In fact, someone asked if I could give them a piece of my clothing to auction off. So I'm slowly giving away all my stuff. And I had recently gone to New York and found this beautiful piece of fabric, and I happened to have it in the bag. You know, I'd just gone to Mr. Man's thing, and Renee says, "What do you want to do with it?" And she said, "Ah!" And I didn't know where the hell I was going to wear it. Well, the Carpathia ball. I can't.
Yeah, and and people said, David, but with everything that's going on, you're throwing a ball. I said, yes, precisely. Because everything that's going on, the response that we have to give is not to go outside and be a monkey in the street,
Yeah.
but to put on our best and to raise our middle fingers along with our champagne glasses and to speak to the world.
To speak to the world. You took the words right out of my mouth. To speak to the world, not to be so insular that we think that everything that's going on here is not being impacted by the world, and that the world is not only just watching us, they're making their own moves, and to have the dialogue in a
Mhm.
beautiful space where most white tea is not going to come. Uh let's switch gears for a little bit, and begin to talk about, it's the beginning of the school year for most children.
Yes, it
Philadelphia School
is.
District, they start today.
It's how
Uh,
bus
the,
is.
the principals and the leaders started last week. They're excited about what's happening, but they're also probably days away from a strike. Nobody wants this strike, but according to, and I've been talking to educators, the teachers say they don't want the strike, but they understand why. The principals and the other leaders are saying, listen, they're not getting any conversation about what their raises would look like. No one's really talking to them, and so they're talking about going to school. Laura says, I'm doing a seminar on that day. Maybe I would. Please do, honey, because this is I am going. I'm going. The Lord willing and the creek don't rise. Let me just say that.
Yes.
So, locally we have all these things happening. The principals also said that their contract is also under review, and no one's really having a conversation with them about that. Where do you want to start, David?
I think sometimes we undervalue our children. Like we we seem to have a disconnect between um, there's a phrase I use often on the floor of the council chambers, which is that if you suffer your people to be ill-educated, and then you corrupt their manners from infancy, and then you charge them for the crimes which their first education disposes of them, then what else can be said but you have made the thief only to punish it? And I think that
Made
we're
the
out
thief
here.
only to punish it.
Yeah, we're out here in the business of making thieves, and that is an awful business to be in. So, if we want to talk about the root of a problem, we want to talk about a solution, then we have to start at the inception of it, at the birth, if you will. And the birth of all things in our lives is the birth of us, the birth of our kids. And so, as we treat these little babies, will they grow up to become? So, if our primary focus isn't on education and on making sure that we have the most educated, most supportive, most wonderfully enriched environment for the people that we put into the world to lead us one day, then we are doomed. We're creating a situation where we have fiefdom that we have put into the world by raping children of what should be theirs a
Mhm.
chance to
Yeah.
survive. And so, while I think it is painful for teachers who don't want to go away, and while I know that principals and people in education board are saying what's going on, we've put a little bit too much focus in places that are intangible for the most marginalized, and not enough focus on what needs to be done, which is the educating, housing, and feeding of the least of us. That's our only commandment, is to love. The city is built on the name Philadelphia. If we're not loving our brothers and sisters, then what are we doing? And this is a big section of love which is missing.
Yeah. Shamika, thank you so much. She says, I believe the Philadelphia Federation of Teachers has a tentative contract as of last night. From your lips to God's ears. Let's see if that works itself out because none of them want to go on strike. They're like,
Nobody.
nobody, none of them.
Yeah.
I've spoken to more than a few of them, and they're like, we just, this is not what we want to do.
You don't
Monica
want to
says,
be
I have
there.
to be honest. Sometimes when David speaks, I have never heard of such words and things. It's that this is why he's with me every Monday. I need you all to hear and experience life beyond the mundane, life beyond the speaking just to hear yourself speak. There's always lessons to be learned, right? She said, this is so grand and so amazing on a level that I do not know. I love it. Thank you for sharing.
And
So
I
that's
want to thank you, and but I also want us to claim it. Right. I think sometimes in and here's our lack of education or the lack of education we've received, we believe that we are adopting somebody else's way. So I sit with a fountain coming over rocks. And I want you to know that the Moorish people built the first fountains that became running water systems for restrooms, so they were able to flush toilets back in the 14th century, right? And that these are things that that the idea of dressing up for a gala or eating on golden plates or lining ourselves in silver is something that comes out of the land of Kemet, which then became Egypt. I want us to understand that the way in which we coif our hair or straighten it or this, that, and the other was a symbol of luxury afforded only to wealthy people, right? And so we have held on to hair as a luxury because the first thing that happened to us when we as a people were enslaved was that we were just forced to shave our heads. So that African American men are still forced by culture to shave their heads or wear low fades, which denotes them as servants or criminals or slaves. They were told they could not. They were made sure they weren't. So I as another middle
and
finger.
we have adapted that as, oh, in order for me to get the job that I want, my hair has to be shaved. And I see parents and family members telling men with
That's right.
beautiful locks, you will
You
never get
can't
this
have the
job.
locks. You can't this and the other.
Yeah. Hmm.
We created the tools to flatten hair before the rest of the world had even thought about it. And so I need us to understand that sometimes when we get stuck in what we think is, it isn't. And sometimes when we give away our real story to somebody else's narrative to be fed back to us as our truth, we need to pause and say, wait a minute, I invented that. I made that. Why am I not claiming that? So I want us to reclaim the space that we have always created and had. I want us to live in that beautiful Wakanda like experience of a world where we understand exactly who we are. That is a gentle, kind, loving, educated, motivated people who cares about one another.
Yeah. So wait a minute. I just got a message. No, there will not be a Philadelphia teachers strike in 2025 because the
Perfect.
Philadelphia Federation of Teachers and the school district reached a tentative contract agreement on August 24th, one day before the existing contract was set to expire. The agreement ensures that the school will start on time. Excellent.
Well done.
Excellent.
And can we
So
take
this
the
must have
time
happened
then?
last night. Wow, because I mean, I was doing my research up until then. We were
Absolutely.
having conversations yesterday evening about it. Nothing
And
has happened. So thank you
so I
so much.
think it would be remiss if we don't applaud the
Amen.
executive branch in City Hall for coming to the table and making sure that we don't have yet another
Specifically the school
issue.
district and the teachers though.
That's right. And
Definitely.
what happens with that is there's always pressure from the executive branch. And so I
Mhm.
want to be fair only to say that if we had had a strike, we'd be knocking on City Hall's door.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that we don't have a strike, I think we need to recognize that behind the mirror or the curtain, there are some puppets at play. And so I want to I always say it's a poor frog who doesn't praise his own pond, right? And so I want
It's
to
a
praise the
poor
pond.
frog that doesn't praise its own pond. You are dropping them today. I thought we had some soliloquies.
So I want to make sure that we applaud Philadelphia's effort at every level to make sure that this
Yeah.
strike is averted as of now, and that we make that tentative agreement permanent,
Hmm.
so that our children can be edified in the way they should always be. They should be first,
Yeah.
children first, and that's because they will become who has to lead this place. Yeah.
Absolutely. Shakila says, "You have made the thief only to punish it." That is so powerful.
It's a British lord actually who gives that to us, and it's something that I first came upon in reading the book Utopia,
Mm-hmm.
and in this understanding of what is the world, and I need us to lean into
Mm-hmm.
that truth that
Yes.
if we create the problem and then punish the problem, we have
Mm-hmm.
existed in a cycle which
Mm-hmm.
will never break.
Mm-hmm. The issue I am having now,
Mm.
because like you said, we created the thief only to punish it. How do we undo the generations of not educating our children properly, poverty in our communities, the 80s where the crack epidemic was such a thing where so many men were locked up? How do we undo that?
We
Because
have to be, and this is the conversation we've been having all morning. Really, is that one we have to allow ourselves we have to allow ourselves to make cool the truth. We right now, what's cool is not the truth. What's cool is to take the check you get and stand in line and wait for the Timberlands to drop. What's cool is to make sure that you have the latest car or the biggest mansion, or you can eat at Steak 48 every night. That's what's cool, is to wear everybody else's labels, Chanel, Baglamishka. I mean, we all fall into this what's cool. Really, when what we should be making cool is how fabulous of a people we have been to get here,
right, absolutely,
and to make
absolutely.
cool gathering for balls that celebrate dignitaries from around the world, to make cool being educated in a way that is quiet and knowledgeable but not showy. I want us to stop asking people what they do for a living in every moment that we have on earth. I want to stop, because what that does is it doesn't value the individual, it devalues the individual. I want us to ask each other, who are you? I
Yes.
am says I am, right? I am
Mm-hmm.
says I am. Who are you?
Mm-hmm.
Not what do you do? Because in that statement, we again devalue ourselves as a group, as individuals, as the people that we greet and meet. I want us to gaze into one another and recognize the little light inside called the God light, because everybody has it. No matter how evil or good people behave in a moment, they've got a God light in them. And if we speak to the God light, then we come to a different understanding about how we operate in this place and space called Earth. So, how do we break the cycle? Well, you can't go back. So, no, you can't go to Generation X and say to them, I'm going to beat you over the head, make you learn this lesson. You can start with the babies. And you can say to the babies, you come from the most beautiful people on earth.
Absolutely. So I was with my grandchildren this past week, and my daughter-in-law said to copy is the boy, paste is the girl. I am smart. I am powerful. I am brilliant. I am kind. And she says, I am, and she uses her name. And she said it. And I looked at them. She says, I do this with all three of my children every day. And they walk with a certainty that life is going to be okay. I want us to become comfortable being the leaders of thought and deed, not following what everybody else tells us to think and do. And it's not the easiest thing to do, because when you look around, people say, I can't do that because I'm going to offend so and so. I can't say that because such and such. No, speak your truth. I did a whole video a few days ago, and I posted it Saturday or Sunday, one of them days. And the video was really around, we are a people without a land because we've been conscripted everywhere we go, even where we've been born. You can't do this. We're going to come in and fix your roads. We're going to come in. And the next thing we know, our spaces are taken. We now have to pay for things that have ordinarily been ours. And so I spoke to us about finding another way, looking throughout what is happening, taking care of each other, and never make the mistake that if it's the cars that we drive or the houses that we own. And I know how pissed off some people, but I didn't care. I didn't care. I need us to be better about who we are, and the lineage that we come from, and how we've been able to make ways out of no ways. And when we were told that we were to be segregated, segregation was, I think, some of the best thing that ever happened to us, because we were creating our own doctors and lawyers. And now the dental school at Howard is filled with white folk because they understand the value of what we bring to the table. How can we not see intrinsically, because we've been conditioned to believe, and all we ever talk about, here's the part that I want you all
Conditioned
to,
by ourselves, too.
so here's the part that I agree, on many levels. Here's the part that I want us to talk about. Stop talking about what's so wrong all the time. and figure out quietly, how do we navigate through all of what we've been told that we could or could not do, and figure out how to move forward as a people. We've spent so much time denigrating one another and tearing each other apart, and who does she think she is, and what is wrong with us? And you see, there's a time upon us where if we aren't if we aren't in a space where we are learning from each other and helping each other, we are screwed again. The purge is upon us again. How do we navigate through this? Which is why I want to come and learn as much as I can from you, because I grew up in a space where we are told you can be. Here in these United States, you're born being told you cannot be. And I
That's
do
right.
not want anybody to move into this country or to move into anywhere else on earth and start telling people, denigrating people and telling them, well, I was able to come and do X, Y, Z. Shut your mouth. Stop it. Learn from them and ask questions instead of making assumptions about what you think you see and know. Does that make sense?
I live this. Um, I've walked around on the earth for all of my life as a opposition party, if you will, to the object and incorrect truth that people are born as black with. And I like to say people of white and people of black because I think it's a behavior more than it is skin color. Because we've watched people of black assimilate into people of white and people of white assimilate into people of black. And that, by that I say the way in which we allow ourselves to move through a space. So, as an example, I sit down at a place and people will say to me, "Well, we see you. But who are you? How do you have the right to be here? This and that, da, 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 da," and you just stand resolute. And I remember being young and being angry at my grandparents' generation, and I said to my grandmother, "It's your fault. Uh, you guys didn't insist that people knew who you were outside of the realm of this family and in this world and this little bubble that we all live in. And so I walk around and people tell me that I'm a fairy tale and I belong in a straitjacket because black people like me don't exist." And I know that we exist because I know that they're here and I know they're there. I know they're in these little circles we go to. But in the broader world, I'm finding that the people who are the most mean to me are not white people. It's poor black people. It's black people who've been disenfranchised, black people who are living in spaces where they've been told they don't matter. And they are cruel to me as they see me because you, as other black people, didn't tell them that we exist. So they believe that their only hope in the future is to become a basketball player or performer.
Ekoromoshanda.
Nobody ever told them that they could be the next person creating things like GPS or stoplights or X, Y, and Z or medical advancements. No one speaks to them in this way. And as an African American community, you didn't do it either,
Yeah.
right? You didn't go out to the people and explain who they were. And so I'm watching, and I think people will gravitate with this. Felicia Rashad's character in The Gilded Age
Yes.
is so real, so
Yes.
real. That's exactly how that room operated for all of the life I ever
That room
knew
continues to operate. Yes.
operates. And so, what we can do is be visual examples of excellence in a way that is prophetic by being quiet, not to walk in the room with our arm covered in Chanel or covered in Cartier or covered, but rather to walk in the room and be the
Yes.
thing instead of wearing the thing, to
Yes.
exist as a kingly figure, to walk nobly, to not allow your I was never allowed to allow my chin to drop. Someone said to me the other day, when you walk, you just move forward. You don't ever look down. I wasn't allowed as a
I
child.
wasn't allowed either.
It was like, do not ever lower your chin. You would never lower your head for anybody.
Yes. Yes.
So even when bowing, keep your chin. Don't like it's like a natural
Mhm.
how do we move through the world in that way? That's a way of walking. So just like we practice being ghetto, right? We practice that Eminem, that Nicki Minaj, that whatever with the long nails and the same. We practice that. We put that into the community. We practice that as a symbol. I need to practice being royal. I need to practice being
Practice being
excellent.
royal. Thank you, Mama.
I need to make it
Thank
cool
you.
again to use English as a language with
Absolutely.
proper verbiage and perfect punctuation, and to stop ourselves and question one another and say,
Mhm.
"Is that my father's family will not speak until the English is correct?" So I grew up thinking, "What did I say? Something that was there? Oh no, you used the wrong word," and so we don't hear you until you use the right word. That is a family from Cumberland Street in North Philadelphia. Please don't be confused that there were two sides of this track that came together to make me. That side was even more excellent, more brilliant, more exacting, more honorable in the way that they stopped and said, "Oh no, we will not raise a lack of excellence here." So I am ever thankful um, that I was not afforded the opportunity to receive a miseducation that would make me comfortable with being less than
Well,
excellent.
what do you say to the people who are listening to us have this dialogue, and they're like, "This is a fairy tale. This can't be.
I say,
This."
come to Carpathia West and see the fairies fly. Because the truth is, life is a fairy tale until you are willing to experience. Until you are brave enough to put your toe in the water, you will not swim. You will simply look at that thing and be scared of it. You will think, how do I get through there? Right. But everything in life is an experience. And so, yes, I understand it's a fairy tale because you've never heard of it before. It doesn't exist in your mind. Even when you use ChatGPT, we just had this conversation. ChatGPT has been asked to give you a narrative of white nationalism. I was sharing documents with you the other day about
Yes.
how these models are created to tell you a story which favors Western culture and it denies the heritage of something. This is not where we need to be in the world. I was at a polo match in Greenwich the other week, and I was explaining to someone that this is a game which is African.
It certainly is.
Polo was born in the Middle East and in Morocco,
Mhm.
right? It came to Europe and now somehow has become this sport of only European kings. I don't think so. No, 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 no. It still exists as a game that is played in the Middle East, in Africa, at the height of heights. It's not a game that we're winning. Chess is born on the continent of Africa. Right. So when we talk about excellence in the world and we celebrate that, one of the things that we're doing in this ball is celebrating excellence in the world and reclaiming the excellence and not allowing it to be thought, oh, well, these people who are only enslaved. Even the system of slavery we built.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
This is a gifted system. Somebody else perfected it, made it cruel and ugly, much worse than it was before. But this is not something new. This is a system that was born on the continent of Africa. So, with all of the things that we can take credit for, good, bad, great,
Mhm. Mhm.
and small, we need to remember that it is time to reclaim our time,
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
reclaim the truth of history that brought us to today in a way that is gracious, not showy, in a
Yes.
way that is important because it stands in the room as the moment. So
Mhm.
this what we're doing, this quiet life, this soft life that we're aiming for in the midst of the chaos of the world, where we have people trying to become kings and potentates and dictators and rulers who don't care about whatever, who are doing everything in their power to make sure that you are gone. The
Yes.
thing that is true is that there's this little light, this little God light inside of you that refuses to be extinguished.
Mhm.
A people who will not be removed.
Mhm. Mhm. Alexandra says, yes, my grandmother didn't allow the misuse of the English language. She taught us just because you come from North Philly doesn't mean you carry yourself, speak, or act like you do.
And let me add to that, because you come from North Philly, you carry yourself in excellence.
Come on. Come
Because you come from this neighborhood, you must carry yourself in brilliance,
on.
right? That's the way that my
Yep.
family taught me. So I had no choice when the Jenkinses and the Debnams came together. There was nothing but calamity to happen in me because I had no choice. I had no choice but to understand how it was I must walk and move through the earth. And then I had this access to be able to do so. And
Yes.
so the two came together without ever forgetting. Because that's the other
You
part.
can't stop. Absolutely.
Sometimes people get new.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
never, never get new. Never
And
get new.
so,
And yeah.
yeah, it's so interesting that we're having this conversation. I don't believe anything is accidental. I think everything comes together just the way it's supposed to be. And Laura
Mm.
says we need this, especially in this time. We were not allowed to speak patois at home. So today, when people say to me, I know I hear something, but I'm not really sure. That's why. That's why. It was the Queen's English at all times. We had to constantly write, get your book, read. We weren't allowed to watch television consistently. We had to read, and then write about. They didn't even ask us to write, they just said read. And so, as a direct result, our vocabulary grew. There was this, my mother had us, she was original charm school teacher. So, when we were growing up, as we became teenagers, she said, walk with your shoulders back and down.
That's right.
Make sure your head is always held high. Do not look to the ground. And we would think she was crazy. One of my sisters spent the entire summer at home. She couldn't go anywhere because she just could not manage.
Can get
And she said,
together.
don't wear what's fashionable, wear what fits your body. So we learned all those things. So now
And
we
what
kind
is
of just
correct?
right,
What is
absolutely, in the
correct?
moment and the times, right? And that you're able to do certain, you can always do anything. So fast forward to today, where I'm closer
Yeah.
to 60, and people keep saying things like, you left one place and you just created something else and you moved on. People question, are you sure you should do that? No, I'm following my God-given light, right? To do what is necessary, to not be like everybody else, but to follow what works exactly for me. As a direct result, people think, well, I remember a sister saying to me, when you come into a room, can you just sit in the back? Because as soon as you walk in the room, you
Your
change the
light's too
temperature.
bright. Oh, but tell her that the room will only turn around
She
and
died.
face the other way.
She died.
See, and this, and condolences to her and her family. But I want to pause here on that. That's really important because when your light is bright, people will turn from darkness to light, no
Yes.
matter where.
No
So,
matter
oh
what.
yeah, oh yes, I can, and I will sit in the back. But I
Mm-hmm.
need you to be aware that all that is going to happen is the room is going to turn itself around.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are afraid of light, if you are afraid of the energy that you feel in this room because it belittles who you believe you are,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
then know that you're going to have a problem when I get here.
Right. And so
Because
there's
I,
folks who are like, I'm worth millions of dollars. Who are you that people are gravitating towards you? And so you're focusing on the wrong damn
wrong
things.
part. I
The
remember
wrong
in
thing.
a panel discussion that we were sitting on, you said, I come into the room with Nanny of the Maroons on one
I do.
shoulder,
I
with
do.
the ancestors, and that they come. So I come, and I needed people to hear that and understand that because I too come with the ancestors on my shoulders. So if I feel heavy to you,
Yeah.
if I feel like I got a lot of stuff going on as I walk in the room, all this
Mhm.
on my shoulders, it's because I do. I've got
Mhm.
13 generations in this country
Yes.
sitting on my shoulder,
Yes.
whispering through the room, don't embarrass me.
Yes.
Make sure you speak with pride. Be
Mhm.
gracious and be kind.
And when you
Be
make
honest in
mistakes,
your truth.
yes. And when you make mistakes, own them, walk
Own them.
in them.
Never lick a gift horse in the mouth. Never, right.
Mhm.
Treat people as you would like to be treated, even those who you know are beneath you,
Sure.
because it is their legs upon which you stand.
Yeah. And
Right. And
you
so
and I had this conversation a few months ago too. I also noticed it took me to get into my 50s to notice this. Every time someone tries to destroy me, they're destroyed.
isn't that something?
It's the
That's
strangest
that
thing.
vibration. Don't do it because the Haint is with
It's
me.
the
Don't,
strangest thing.
don't do-
And I don't do anything. I walk with, illumination and light, and I say, thank you for the part you played in my journey, blah, 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 blah.
yeah.
But until they make that thing right, every time. And I love it. Ajay said it's the thing with the ancestors that are following you, right? There's a woman, a nurse next door who was helping taking care of a patient, and I would see her for weeks and go and stop back and forth. And last week Friday, she said to me, or the Friday before, she says, I have to tell you this. She said, God not only loves you, there's some things coming. She said, I promise you, you're going to be okay. You know how many times I heard that? I'm perfect strangers. Perfect. And all because, David, like you, we have to be mindful about the way we treat people. We always must walk in kindness. Do not treat anybody as if they are disposable, because it's not just what we say, but what we do that carries the thing. So you ever notice some people that
And
get in trouble and nobody shows up to help them and support them? It's because they're not kind in their dealings. They use people.
and and
That'll
and
destroy you.
and some we have to stop. We have to stop trashing people. This language is ugly. It's a bad vibration. I want to remind us that in Africa there and I want to get this right. There was an adopted bastard child
Mm-hmm.
who was convicted of murder, who ran out from the country as a fugitive,
Hmm.
who found himself on a mountain in front of a fire, who came back to free the people of Israel.
Absolutely. Good old
I,
Moses. Yep.
I want us to stop taking the idea of the murderer, the thief, the bastard child, or whatever else, and damning them to hell. I want us to remember that it was a young woman who was maybe not a virgin, but not a virgin, depends on who you talk to, who was
Hmm.
living a different type of life,
Hmm.
who's somebody who had a wife had to leave that person to come and protect them, and so
Hmm.
that she would be stoned to death, who had to give birth in a haystack,
Hmm.
that perhaps
Of
delivered
an
the Savior of
animal.
the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want us to think about the fact that it is never the person who is perfect who has ever chosen to drive a movement into joy, into freedom, into truth, into honor. It's always somebody who's been dyed in the wool, if you will, who comes forth
Hmm.
to bring a liberation and a turn about a group of people. So
Hmm.
when we walk out here and judge people, I see spouses talking about other spouses that just makes me cringe. I see people walking around talking about their neighbors and their children. I see people denigrating life in ways that I say to myself, don't you know that that energy that you put out there is so powerful that it has lowered your own vibration?
Yes.
And that in order for you to vibrate in a way that you will be successful, that you can cherish life, that you can
Hmm.
become all these things, because it can happen. The universe hears you. We'll have the
Hmm.
conversation, right? Is you got to vibrate high constantly. You got to push yourself when you're sad to vibrate on a higher level. And that when you speak negativity in the world, it's at such a low frequency that all the rest of it can't hear.
Yes.
The tone of positivity
So no matter
is a completely
how sharp you think you're dressed, no matter the name brand that you're wearing, you're wondering why people aren't paying attention to you. It's because you're low, vibrating
you're
lowly,
vibrating low.
in the low. I had a conversation with a dear friend Saturday who said he was concerned about the state of the church in Philadelphia, and that there used to be a time when pastors would get together and figure out. He said the pastors would go to the politician and tell them what's going on in the community to help them get to where they. He said everybody right now is doing their own thing. Pastors not speaking to pastors, pastors jockeying for position, pastors. Meanwhile, the people, he said, we have a government right now that's coming. We know it's not a matter of where, if, but when. And he said, we've got these pastors in the city that can't even pull together. And the people, as a direct result of, so goes the head, so goes the tail. So within the structure of the church, the people are not acting right. They're raising their hands, screaming and calling on Jesus, but they walk out the church and they fight each other to get out the parking lot. They walk out the church and they rip each other apart. They walk out the
Waiting for
church.
somebody else's wife, deacon is so and so. Listen, right, and but also part of this is again a miseducation. The black church in America did not form out of a religious understanding. Hear that again. The black church in America did not form for the purposes of religiosity,
Nope.
because the people who were enslaved were for the most part Jewish. That's why
Mhm.
they understood the Old Testament and not the New. And so
Mhm.
they used the stories and allegories within the Old Testament to tell
Mhm.
them about political action, to tell them about when to be ready to move, to shift, to abandon positions as slaves, to fight. Right? They came to the church and they worshiped from sun up until sundown, because the law said that as long as the sun is not up, you don't have to work in the field. So they spent the entire day on the Old Testament using figures like Moses to speak about Harriet Tubman.
Mhm.
And so, this preaching, this understanding, this development into the Christianity that we now see and whatever else was born in political action group, if you will, called the church. And that is what is lost in many religious communities. We have to go back and remember that the duty of the Black church, if you will, in America was to teach people where they were otherwise uneducated. And now we've become so fancy that we forgot that we were teaching people. So we scream at them, we give them messages of X, Y, and Z, of prosperity gospel, and of X, Y. We want to make sure that the plate's passed around 18 times a day to collect more offerings. You know, that plate passing around many times did not come in order to pay the preacher's salary for the guest, whatever. It used to be because
For the
that's how the
people of the church,
community
for the community.
funded. How
Yeah.
we funded everything in the community was to come together in this collective. That's why the plate was passed more than once. It wasn't to make sure that you had a new Mercedes Benz or a
Or
plane
a
that you could
jet.
fly. And so I worship in an Anglo Catholic setting,
That's what my
because it's one
family.
of it's a place that I grew up in. I was baptized by Quentin Ebenezer Primo, who was the suffragan bishop of Chicago, and by three bishops actually, Alan Holt and one more, as the sacred ministers in private baptism. But I grew up in this Anglo Catholic communion, in which the important part for the church was to be a witness in the community, quietly, reverently, honestly, that would allow us to question and dig into theology, thought, but also remain formal in our reverence. And so I think that what we have to do is come back as an educational standpoint. I think a lot of the pastors who exist within the African American diaspora now are not necessarily the most educated when it comes to why they are who they are.
And and listening to you, they would disagree with you. They
Of
would
course
say,
they
I
would.
went to this school and I went to that school and I
And I've
did
taken
this.
to church. I would say, come to the ELCA, to Chestnut Hill. Come learn at a theological seminary which questions why it is that you've taken the Roman Catholic understanding of X, Y, and Z that we know was changed at the Council of Nicaea, that we know was changed at the Council. Why would we not look at those things and ask ourselves, why do we say what we say? We don't go back to learn homiletics from a Greek and Aramaic standpoint. So we translate from a text that was translated into Latin. But that's already a mistranslation, right? We look at
But
the word.
David, I don't know. Forgive me for cutting you off,
You
but I
know,
don't know what the thing is, because I hear people say things like, I don't agree with the Muslims, I don't agree with the cat. There's only one true God. Well, how do you get to decide, right? And so we separate ourselves, through all of these different religions. And the truth of the matter is, the only thing we need to see when we see our brothers and sisters, despite where they're worshiping or how they're doing it, the way that they're doing it, is to see them through a lens of love and
ah,
understanding.
right there. And that is why I don't. That is why I don't. That is why I say I don't. That is why I move with I don't, because I need to be I am. If we could stop and look at a human person and say, I see a human, whew, wouldn't that change everything else that we do after that? If we could pause and look at a person, instead of saying, I see a doctor, a lawyer, or a chef, I see a bus driver, a police officer, I see a homeless person, if we
Please
could
say that.
stop
I
and
see you
say,
in your
I
home.
see a human,
Yep.
suddenly we would be incapable of the cruelty we level on others. Suddenly be incapable of the lauding that we give certain folk. We'd be incapable because we would just see the godlight.
Yes.
We would be forced to pause and go,
Yes.
"Oh, I see breath and life and
Yes.
skin and eyes and a creature that is me, reflected from the same source of wherever it is the source is.
Yeah.
I see that thing."
Instead, we do things like, well, it's by invitation only. You've been invited to such and such because no, y'all don't understand. That's not
I,
impressive. What's impressive is what you do for the person on the street. Every time I pass a mom in my car, I've stopped and offered rides. Of course, people feel uncomfortable, but every time I see a mom or someone at the bus stop having to take the bus, I pray. I pray as I'm driving by, or I'll
Mhm.
stop. I remember seeing a woman standing out in this heat, Indian woman, and she looked like she was about to pass out. My husband and I stopped, opened the trunk of our car, and said, "Would you like a water?" There was no shelter for her, And she looked at us and she was like, "No, thank you." And we have trained people to not trust and like each other. We've trained people to look at skin color, look at what you're wearing, look at where you live. We've trained people to do all those
Mhm.
things. And to this day, it grates on my nerves when I hear somebody say, "Oh, she's so and so, she's a lawyer. Oh, he is so and so, and he's a teacher, and he has 5 degrees, and blah 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 blah." It grates on my last nerve. It
What
does.
if? Because we often ask this question, particularly on the air here. What is the answer? What do we do in this time? What if we allowed ourselves to go to the people that disagree with us and stretched out our hands and took their hands and said, "Who are you? What is your story? How do you feel? Where is your pain? And how can I simply listen?"
Absolutely.
Because I think what happens is that when you go to the person that you want to call your enemy, the person disagrees with you, the person who wants to enslave you again, maybe,
Mhm.
and you hold space for the godlight
Mhm.
to appear. You break through these walls and these barriers, and you say, I understand that you got some pain because I got some pain. We all got some pain.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
want to understand, I want to speak to the inner child, the little light inside, and I want to know of that spirit, of that being,
Mhm.
who
Right.
are you?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, and this is the thing that we forget all the time. I'm gonna go around, so come with me.
Mhm. Mhm.
In many cultures, the name of God is unspoken, and we cannot pronounce it. The Jewish and the Native Americans and many African tribes would announce that Yahweh,
Yes.
right? And I want you to say Yahweh, and I want you to realize that the thing about prophetic wisdom in religiosity in these rooms is that it says that you cannot exist without God.
Mhm.
And I want you to understand that Yahweh is the sound of breath.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
When you go to a newborn baby, you hear an audible. When you
Yeah.
see a person leave the world, you see the labored.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
You cannot live without saying the name of God. You can't exist because you have to breathe. Every time you breathe, you take in and you take out. And if that is true, then every single person is screaming for God in every breath, in every moment, in every action. So if you can focus on the God light and on the and pause and breathe with a person,
Mhm.
you can get rid of the noise, the skin color, the anger, the tone, the sadness, the hurt, the pain, the joy, the celebration. You can put all of that to the side and
Mhm.
with a brother or sister across the aisle, with your neighbor, with your loved one. The thing about vibration and breath and the world that we live in is we overcomplicate things so much that we
Yes.
lose our own way. So
Andrea,
Yahweh
right.
through life.
Andrea says, if we could, we would. But in America, we don't. We've been so conditioned, Andrea. We've been so conditioned to treat each other terribly. We've been so conditioned to rip each other apart. We've been so conditioned to see the splendor and the spending of the money and living in certain places because that money then makes a certain group of people wealthier while we're blowing our monies that we could actually be saving and helping each other in the community. It grinds my gears every time someone says, well, what about the politicians? What are they doing? Forget the politicians, but they're supposed to set laws and policies to make sure that we're safe. What are we doing in our communities to help each other when we see our sister or our brothers down, right? I
And
have
what
kids
are
that
we doing to hold the standard to the people that we elect to represent us? What would happen if we walked into a room arm in arm and stood solid and didn't move?
yeah.
What could go if you know and yes, ICE is scary. Yes, the militarization of police on the streets is scary.
Mhm.
Yes, policies are scary. What would happen if all of Washington, D.C. went out to the road and just linked arms and stood there?
Mhm.
How many people would have to affront them to make a movement? How powerful would that be? But we have been conditioned to separate ourselves into small groups so that
Lord,
we can be managed.
yes.
We are a
Because
communal creature. We're
yes,
supposed to come together.
and that's how we were born and raised, and for some reason that's left us. Andrea says because we aren't conditioned around common humanity, because cruelty and confusion and division is the point, which is why I've asked all of you, if you see that this is a, remove yourselves from the spaces. Simply remove yourself. You don't have to be in every room. You don't have to be a part of the stuff. I don't belong to any organization. That's purposeful. That's purposeful.
I don't.
I don't.
I
Because then you
am.
become a part of the confusion and division and all of that other
Mhm.
stuff, and people fighting one another and people saying these things about one, and then you find yourself as a part of that, because even if you're not talking and being a part of that foolishness, it's seeping into you because you're in it, right? And so you're trying to do, you cannot create goodness out of confusion. You just cannot. And so you literally, it's okay to separate yourself. It is. And not separate yourself out of being, I don't want to, I can't. Just simply separate yourself and say, how can I be of help? Who are the people that are around me that I can walk with in the light to help other people? Tell the
Again, we
truth.
go back to the corrupted person in infancy who's charged with the crimes which their first education has disposed on them.
Absolutely.
Right? It is that, and in order to undo that cycle, we have to begin with a new group of people from infancy
Yeah.
who are taught to breathe in and out their truth. Right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that some just basically, if you believed that you were made in the image of God,
Mm-hmm.
if you believed that, then you would know that when asked, who are you?" God said, "I am."
I am. Yeah.
And
Not I
so,
went to college. Not that
not
I
I,
have
not he
been.
didn't give
Not
the
none of those
qualifications of
things.
God.
Yep.
He didn't
Yep.
say, I'm the Lord of wrath and the thing of sea and the this and the other and all.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't. I am.
Mm-hmm.
I am. So if you could walk in I am instead of I do, you
Whew.
might be able to look at another person's am and love them simply as love, because you're
Absolutely.
not worried or confused or interested in
Mm-hmm.
what they do, but rather
Mm-hmm.
who they
Mm-hmm.
are.
And
Yeah,
then
I
it
think
would make sense to you when you're vibrating lowly, um, uh, to see them, understand them.
it is impossible to vibrate on a low level in I am. Because when you are vibrating in I am, you are literally speaking to every part of your core, every part of your being, your the higher and lower self, as they're explained within physics. All of those things are operating at the same rate, at the same access, in
Mm-hmm.
tandem at the highest level, because you are in communion with both what is inside and outside. That requires a vibrational force. You can only vibrate low in I do, because that is a conditioned state. It's a conditioned place. It only
Tell the
allows you this
people.
much room. So please stop operating in I
I
do.
do.
Operate in I
In
am.
I am. Yes. Yes. Tell the people. It's good to be back. It's good to be back with you. I've got a full day. I am going to send me that link again, please. I just put it up on here, but I got to get out of
Yes,
my eye
it
space.
www.carpathiawestball.com.
All right, I'll deal with that. Um,
www.carpathiawestball.com. I can't wait to see you all come and be and
yes.
am in this space, right? And it is my heart's desire that you know, all of you know, from whom you have come,
Mhm.
and that you never forget that part. Because if you don't forget that, then the promised land is already here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Despite what it looks like,
You
despite what
just
it
don't know
feels.
it. You don't know it because you refuse to take the steps to understand that you're breathing. And with every breath, you've spoken the name of God.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, my brother. Love to
Good
you.
seeing you.
And
Love you more.
talk to you
Bye.
soon. All right, bye bye. Monica says, I look for the God goodness in everyone I meet, lead with love on purpose. And, the more people behave in a low vibrational way, the more you have to choose to either step to the side and let them be who they are until they figure it out, because we can't fix anybody, or the more you try to sit and understand about what is it that we can do differently instead of operating in a low vibrational way with them, because two wrongs don't make a right. This episode of Mornings with Marvel is officially over. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders. I'll see you when I see you. Bye, everybody. Bye bye. Bye, darlings. All right. All right. All right. Bye, darling.